What's going on, everybody? I got a little bit of a different video for you today, and that's why you're seeing it uploaded outside of Wednesday or Saturday, which are my usual uploads, or I should say where I try to keep my usual uploads. This is the story of how I shattered my collarbone when I hit a deer on my motorcycle. Spoiler alert, there's no footage of the accident. I wasn't recording, I didn't have a camera with me. But if you want to hear the story, stick around. What had happened? This would have been literally 1 year and a week ago today. I was on my way to work. Now, I wake up very early in the morning to go to work. I wake up at 4:30, make my breakfast, eat my breakfast, put on my clothes, walk out of the door, and I'm usually out of the house at about 5 to 5:15. I was getting in the car or on the bike and heading to work. So where I live is west of San Antonio. I won't tell you exactly where, but I do live west of San Antonio, and my ride to work is exclusively highway at about 70 miles an hour. I pull out of my neighborhood, I turn onto the highway, I go 70 miles an hour all the way until I get to Highway 90, and I get to Highway 90 and I go another 70 miles an hour all the way until I get to work. Well, this was one of those mornings. I had just bought my truck, and I felt a little bad because we had gotten 2 keys for the truck, and one of them was the wrong key. The dealership had just mixed them up. So the second day, I left the truck with my wife and her key so that she could enjoy the truck, same as I did. And it was the wrong key, so she couldn't drive the truck, she couldn't enjoy the truck, and she was a little upset about that. Understandable. So was I. We got it worked out, but I was still feeling a little bad about it. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna ride my bike this whole week, or maybe even the next couple weeks, and I'll let her drive the truck. And looking back on it, I probably should have just taken the Pathfinder because it was kind of really dumb. I put myself in a situation where I was at risk for hitting a deer more than I wanted to be, if that makes sense. So it's 5 o'clock in the morning on like a Tuesday on a dark country road with no lights that I've already hit 2 deer on in my truck. My other truck. Now my truck's got a steel bumper, so you just slam on the brakes, and when you hit them, they usually bounce off of it, and you keep going, which is exactly what's happened. So I've already hit 2 on this road, and looking back on it, it was really dumb, because I'm one of those people that's all about mitigating risk when you're on your motorcycle. If there's something you can do to either lessen your injuries or lessen your chances, do it. If that's sitting in the left side of the lane so that somebody doesn't rear end you, do it. If that's wearing all of your gear all the time, wear it. And before you think before I'm preaching gear, I'm guilty of not always wearing all my gear. I try to, but I've done it in the past. It just so happened that this morning, like every morning, because I'm riding 70 miles an hour to work, I had all my gear on. So I had my pants on with my armor in them. I had my Vans MT shoes. They're like mountain climbing shoes. They're really thick. They're really padded though. I was wearing those. I had my jacket on. I had my helmet on. Had my gloves on. Everything, right? And I had already passed like 4 or 5 herds of deer, and I was thinking, you know what? I should turn around. I've already passed so many of them. I should turn around and go back home and get the truck. And I thought, no, because if I turn around, I have to go back through them. I should be through the worst of it. And I kind of committed to the idea that if a deer ran out on me, I would just get on the brakes, which leads me to the motorcycle I was on. I was on a 2008 CBR 1000 RR. So the brakes are good. Like, I can stop this motorcycle as fast as I can accelerate. And I was already like in my head, I'll just get on the brakes. I'll just get on the brakes, which I've later come to regret, which is where I'm going with this story. So I turn out of my neighborhood, I pass a couple of deer, kind of freaks me out. I'm a little anxious now, I'm a little nervous because I passed them really close to the side of the road. And I'm about, typical statistic here, 5 miles down the road from my house. And I'm like, if one runs out, I'm just gonna hit the brakes. And sure enough, a car passes me the other way with their lights, and I kind of look down for a second because they had their high beams on, and I look back up, and the deer is already coming across from the left side of the road to the right. And I thought, well, here we go. And I got on the brakes, and I had just enough time to go and get on the brakes. And I remember seeing her butt hit my handlebar. And after her butt hits my handlebar, I don't have any memory until I'm already on the pavement. But I know she hit my handlebar because my knuckles were hurting. And I think between her hitting my handlebar, it locked up the front wheel and sort of dumped me off the left side of the motorcycle. So all the motorcycle did was that, and I just went off the left side of it. And looking back, here's why I regret it. I know that if I'd have saw her and just swerved just a little bit to the left, I would have missed her. I wouldn't have even had to hit the brakes. I would have just had to push on that left handlebar just a little bit, and I would have missed her. But in my head, I was already in that just get on the brakes, and I should have been in that see and avoid. And I wasn't doing see and avoid. I was anticipating just jumping on the brakes, which I shouldn't have been doing. And anyways, long story short, I hit her on my handlebar, and it dumped me off the left side of the motorcycle. So I know I was going 70-ish when I saw her. I'm assuming I was going between 55 and 70 when I hit her. I don't know exactly how fast I was going. But I just remember hitting her and then like, oh, I'm sliding across the ground now. And I was on my stomach. I remember being on my stomach. And I thought, well, that sucked. I'm going to stand up because I thought I had stopped. And when I tried to stand up, I pushed my forearm and my left knee into the pavement to sort of push myself up off the ground. And I realized as soon as I pushed down with my left knee that I was still sliding at some fast mile an hour. And when I pushed down with my left knee, I started to roll, and I think I rolled 3 or 4 times across the road and into the grass. So when we wrecked, I went here and the bike went over this way. And I slide off into the grass and I stand up pretty much like one of those, as I come to a slide, my feet come back down, I'm now laying on my back, and I sort of just stand up from the slide. And I'm thinking, no, all my limbs are still on, like we're good. Like I don't feel like anything's broken. I feel like I'm okay. So I remember I took my helmet off, and this is adrenaline for you. I took my helmet off, and my Senna was playing, so everything just got quiet, and it was really eerie. But I pulled my helmet off, and I dropped my jacket off my left arm, or off my right arm, and as soon as I went like that with my jacket, I felt my collarbone do one of these, and I knew, oh no, that's definitely broke, because with all that adrenaline in my veins, that is still the worst pain I've ever felt in my entire life. That was awful. It felt like somebody had a steak knife and was just dragging it around up in my shoulder. And I'm going to show you the scar real quick, so if you're squeamish, look away. But there's my scar from surgery where they put a plate on it. I hope that came out on camera, but it was in 5 total pieces. It broke here, and there's like a little 1/2-inch piece, and then there was 2 other chunks that all came apart. So my plate goes from here just about all the way to the end of my clavicle. I want to say the plate is like 7 inches long overall and has 5 screws in it. But anyways, back to the story. So I stand up from the side of the road, and I notice my neighbor is passing me, and he pulls over next to my bike, and he throws all of his orange lights on because he has like one of those big service trucks with a crane on the back of it. And he gets out, and he's looking at my bike, and he's sort of looking around because he doesn't see me. And I've never met him before. I've never met him before. I just know he lives in my neighborhood because I recognize the truck. And I come walking across the road. I'm holding my helmet in my hand and my jacket over my arm like this, and my left arm's down at my side. I come walking around across the road, and he looks up at me, and I look at him, and I go, howdy. And he just goes, howdy, are you okay? And I'm like, I'm pretty sure my collarbone's broke, but other than that, I'm fine. So of course I tell him what happened. My wife came down in the truck. He used the crane. He picked my bike up with the crane, set it in the back of my truck. My wife drove me to the ER, which was a whole cluster. They did x-rays and all this other stuff. And then even though my primary care physician is right there in the exact same office, I then had to go back in the car later and go back into town and get seen by my primary care for a referral, even though I was there 3 hours beforehand. It was really annoying. But that's the story of what happened. My advice to you, if you ride a motorcycle, mitigate your risk. Do everything you can do to minimize the chance of an accident. And if that means not riding your motorcycle at 5 o'clock in the morning down a dark country road that's known to have a bunch of deer on it, take the car. But if you enjoyed the video, leave us a like, leave us a comment, subscribe, and as always, be easy.